The first time I realized something was wrong, it wasn't dramatic. There was no scream. No sudden shadow moving in the corner of my eye. No shatter-edge lass or whisper in the dark. It was quieter than that. More precise. I woke up at 7:42 a.m. I remember that clearly because I checked my phone twice, once when I opened my eyes, and again because something felt off. Like I had already seen that number before. 7:42 a.m. It sat there, glowing faintly blue against the dim light of my bedroom, but when I stood up, the clock on the wall said 7:19. At first, I thought my phone was wrong. It happens. Software glitches, dead zones, updates. But then I noticed something else. The air felt used. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the room had already been lived in that morning. The sheets were warm in places they shouldn't have been. The glass of water on my nightstand had a faint lip mark on it. Mind, I don't drink water in the middle of the night. Never have. I told myself I was just groggy. That explanation lasted exactly 3 hours. I work in an archive department in a government building that nobody really thinks about. Not the kind of place that handles secrets, at least. Not exciting ones. Just records. Files, old paperwork people forgot about decades ago. Time in that place is supposed to be preserved. Cataloged. Trusted. Which is why what happened next felt like a violation. At 10:13 a.m. I logged an incoming file. Case reference 80/temporal discrepancy reports. I remember typing it. I remember stamping it. I remember placing it in drawer 4. At 10:21 a.m. I went to retrieve it. It wasn't there. Not misplaced. Not buried under other folders. Gone. I checked the logbook. The entry wasn't there either. The space where I knew I had written it was blank, not erased. Not crossed out, just never written. My pen was still warm in my hand. I wish I could say I reacted rationally, that I checked security footage, asked colleagues. Filed a report. I didn't, because something had already begun to settle inside me, a quiet, crawling understanding that logic wasn't going to help. Instead, I went to the bathroom. I locked the door, and I looked at myself. There was something wrong with my reflection. Not obvious, not grotesque. If you walked in and glanced at the mirror, you wouldn't notice it. But I stared and stared. And then I saw it. There was a half-second delay. When I blinked, my reflection blinked after me. Just slightly. Just enough. I stopped breathing. I tested it again. Slowly, deliberately. I raised my hand. My reflection followed. Late. Not by much, but late. The kind of delay you'd expect from a video call with a bad connection. Except there was no screen. No signal. Just me. And whatever was pretending to be me. That's when I noticed the second thing. My reflection looked tired. Not normal tired. Not didn't sleep well tired. It looked like it had lived longer than me. There were faint lines at the corners of its eyes that I didn't have. A heaviness in its posture. A subtle sag in its expression. It was me, but not current me. Older. Or worse, left behind. I stumbled back from the mirror. My heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. When I looked again, everything was normal. Perfectly synced. Perfectly me. I almost convinced myself it hadn't happened. Almost. That evening, I went home early. I told my supervisor I wasn't feeling well. He barely looked up when I said it. Just nodded and waved me off like I was another file to be processed and forgotten. That thought stuck with me longer than it should have. Processed and forgotten. When I got home, the first thing I did was check the time. 6:08 p.m. I placed my phone on the table. I sat down. I waited. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I was trying to prove to myself that everything was normal. That time would pass the way it always had. That I was still anchored at 6:12 p.m. I blinked at 6:12 p.m. The lights flickered at 6:12 p.m. I heard something move behind me, and when I looked back at the clock it said 6:47.45. Minutes. Gone. Not past, not experienced. Gone. The room felt wrong again. Used. Lived in. There was a second glass on the table. Half full. Don't own a second glass, and that's when I heard it. My voice. From hallway. Soft. Tired. Whispering something I couldn't quite understand. I didn't move. I didn't breathe, because deep down, I already knew if I turned around, I wouldn't be alone. I didn't turn around. Not. Immediately, there's a very specific kind of fear that locks your body in place, not the kind that makes you run, but the kind that convinces you that movement itself is dangerous. Like if you walk knowledge what's behind you, It becomes real in a way it wasn't before. So I stayed still. The whisper came again. Closer this time. Scratched raw, like it had been used too much, too long. Don't. The word dragged across the air like something being pulled through broken glass. I swallowed, my throat dry. Don't what? I asked before I could stop myself. Silence. Then, look. That should have been enough. That should have been the moment I listened, stayed facing forward. Maybe even ran out of the apartment. But something inside me, something stubborn. Something wrong needed to know. So I turned. Slowly. Carefully. If speed would make it worse. The hallway was empty. Course it was. The light above flickered once, twice, humming faintly as if it was struggling to stay on. The walls looked, not physically, not in any measurable way, but the distance end of the hallway felt longer than it should have been. Like space itself had been pulled thin. I stood up from the chair, my legs unsteady.
Hello?
I called. My voice sounded normal, too normal. It didn't match what I'd heard. I took a step toward the hallway, then another. Each step felt heavier than the last, like I was wading through something invisible and thick. The air had that same used feeling again, stale, disturbed, as if someone had been pacing back and forth just moments before. I reached the entrance to the hallway. That's when I saw it. The door at the end, my bedroom door, was slightly open, but I had left it closed. I was certain of that, certain in the same way you're certain of things you've done 1,000 times before. I walked toward it. Slowly. The floor creaked beneath my feet, each sound echoing just a little too long, like the apartment was remembering it after it happened. When I reached the door, I hesitated. Something felt wrong. Not just fear. Recognition. The door was open just enough for me to see inside, and what I saw was me. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, head in my hands. Breathing heavily. Wearing the same clothes I had on right now. I froze. My mind tried to reject it instantly, to call it a trick of light, a reflection. Anything but what it clearly was, but it wasn't a mirror, it wasn't glass, it was solid. Real. The other me lifted his head, slowly, and looked directly at me. His eyes were bloodshot. Not from crying, from exhaustion, from something deeper, something that had been wearing him down. You shouldn't have come back here, he said. His voice matched the whisper, worn out, fractured. Like every word cost him something. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Because the worst part wasn't seeing him. It was understanding him. There was no confusion in his expression. No surprise. He had been expecting me.
What?
I finally managed, my voice barely holding together. What is this? He let out a quiet, humorless laugh. You don't remember yet, he said. Of course you don't. He stood up slowly, and as he did I felt something inside my head shift. Like a memory trying to surface. Something buried. Something I wasn't supposed to access. You're at the beginning, he continued, taking a step toward me. And he hesitated. For just a second.
What's left? A chill crawled down my...
He stopped a few feet away from me, close enough that I could see every detail of his face. The faint scars along his jaw that I didn't have. The deeper lines around his eyes, the subtle tremor in his hands.
It means, he said softly, you're running out of time. The words hit me harder than they should have, because they didn't feel like a warning. They felt like a memory.
I don't understand, I said. I know, he replied. That's the problem. The lights flickered again, harder this time. The room seemed to stutter just for a second, like reality itself had skipped a frame. And in that moment he moved. Suddenly. He was right in front of me. Closer than he should have been. Closer than he could have moved in that time. I stumbled back, my heart slamming against my ribs.
How are you? You're losing pieces, he interrupted.
Minutes. Hours. Eventually, he leaned in slightly. Years. I shook my head, backing away.
No.
That's not possible. That's what I said. His eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment I saw something behind them. Something vast, something empty. You think time is something you move through, he said quietly. But it's not. His voice dropped even lower. It's something that moves through you. The room flickered again, longer this time. The walls blurred. The air warped. And then he grabbed my wrist. The moment his skin touched mine, I saw it. Not a vision, not a dream. The memory. Older, alone, sitting in this same apartment. The walls were cracked. The lights barely worked. Clocks covered every surface. All of them showing different times. Me or him was whispering over and over to no one. Or don't look, don't follow it, don't let it take more. The memory snapped. I ripped my hand away, gasping. You have to stop it, he said, his voice distorting. Before it finishes what finishes? I shouted. His face twisted, not in pain, but in something worse, resignation. Before you stop existing in time at all. And then he was gone. The room snapped back to normal. The door was closed. The hallway was empty. The apartment was silent. I stood there, shaking, trying to process what had just happened, trying to convince myself it hadn't. Then I looked down at my wrist. There were fingerprints, not bruises, not marks, just indentations, like someone had held me there long enough to leave a memory in my skin. And beneath them, etched faintly, barely visible, were numbers. 742. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid to. Because I wasn't sure sleep still worked. I stayed in the living room. Every light on, every clock I owned placed in front of me. Wall clock. My laptop. All ticking. All moving. All slightly wrong. First it was subtle. A second here, a second there, then minutes, then disagreement. 2:13 a.m. My phone said 2:13. The wall clock said 1:58. The microwave blinked 3:01 a.m. like it had given up trying to keep up. I stared at them until my eyes burned, because if time was breaking, I needed to see how day, and then it happened. Again. I blinked. The room changed, not dramatically. Not violently. Just rearranged. The couch had shifted slightly to the left. The glass on the table was empty. The lights were dimmer, and one of the clocks was gone. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Because now I understood that it wasn't just that time was skipping. It was that something was editing it, removing pieces, adjusting details, rewriting small things, and waiting to see if I noticed. My chest tightened. Stop, I whispered. I don't know who I was talking to, but something in the room heard me. The air thickened. The lights flickered, and then all the clocks stopped at the same time. Silence fell like a weight. Not absence of sound, but pressure. Like the world itself was holding its breath. From somewhere behind me, a sound. Tick. One clock restarted. Tick. Another. Tick. But they weren't syncing. They were cascading. Each one starting at a different moment. Different time. Different reality. I turned slowly, and that's when I saw it. The hallway. It wasn't a hallway anymore. It stretched. Farther than my apartment should allow. Farther than any physical space could hold. The walls pulsed faintly, like something alive was breathing behind them, and the doors, there were too many doors, dozens. Lining both sides. Each one slightly open. Each one leaking a different kind of light. My heart dropped into my stomach. Because I already knew. Each door wasn't a room. There was a moment. I took a step closer. The air grew colder, heavier. Like I was moving deeper into something I wasn't meant to survive. From one of the doors, I heard laughter, my laughter, younger. Carefree. From another, sobbing. Raw. Broken. And then from further down, that same voice. Don't come closer. I froze, because I recognized it. Not the tired version from before. Not the whisper from the hallway. This one was worse. This one sounded like it had given up. I moved. Anyway. Step by step, the floor beneath me no longer felt solid. More like layered. Like I was walking over versions of the same place stacked on top of each other. I passed a door and glanced inside. He was sitting at the table. He writing something. Over and over. It resurfaced on the walls, on the floor, on my own arms. 742 again. 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 My breath hitching. No. Another door. I was older. Much older. Skin pale. Eyes hollow. Surrounded by clocks that weren't moving at all. Just frozen. Everywhere. Me or him was staring directly at the door. Me. Waiting. I slammed it shut. This isn't real, I whispered. This isn't real, it is. The voice came from behind me. Turned, and he was there again, but not the same. This version of me was worse. His skin looked thinner, almost translucent. Like something had been draining him from the inside. His eyes were sunken. His body flickered. Not fading. Not disappearing. Skipping. Like a broken frame in a video. You came too far, he said.
What is this place?
I shouted. He looked around slowly, at the doors, at the stretching hallway, at the impossible depth of it all.
This, he said, is what's left of you. My stomach twisted.
No, I said, shaking my head. No, that doesn't make sense. It will. He stepped closer, and with each step he seemed to age. Years passing in seconds. Wrinkles deepening. Skin tightening. Eyes hollowing further. Time isn't breaking, he continued. It's being taken. By what? I demanded. He stopped in front of me, and for the first time he looked afraid. Not what, he said. His voice dropped to a whisper. Who? The lights flickered violently. The hallway twisted, the doors slammed open all at once, and from inside them something moved. Not figures. Not people. Absences. Shapes where. Reality should have been. Voids that swallowed light, that bent sound, that erased the edges. Of everything they touched, they were coming out. Stepping into the hallway. They've been following you, the older version of me said. Every second you lose they take. My heart pounded. What do they want? He grabbed my shoulders, hard. Desperate. They don't want you. His grip tightened. They want your time. The voids moved closer. Faster now. The hallway warping around them. You have to go back, he said urgently. To the beginning. How? He hesitated. Just for a moment. Then he said it.
742, the numbers hit me like a shock.
That's where it started, he continued. That's where you still exist fully. The voids were almost on us now. The air screaming. The world tearing at the edges. You have to anchor yourself there, he said. Or you'll end up like me. I looked at him. Dopper really looked. And realized something. He wasn't just older, he was incomplete. Parts of him were missing. Not visually. But existentially. Like pieces of his life had been removed. Forgotten. Erased. What happens if I don't? I asked. His expression broke. You won't die, he said. The voids reached out. Closer. Closer. You'll just...
Stop ever having existed. The first void touched my arm. Everything went black. There was no pain. That's the first thing I remember. No tearing.
No burning. No sensation of something grabbing me. Just absence. Not darkness is something. This was nothing. This was still aware. That was the worst part. I didn't have a body. Didn't have breath. Didn't have a heartbeat. But I knew I was there. Somewhere. Someone. And something else was there with me. Not beside me. Not in front of me. Round me. Watching. I tried to. Think. Tried to hold on to something. Anything that was mine. My name. My face. My life. They slipped. Like water through fingers that didn't exist anymore. And then a sound. Tick. A single sharp tick. The void rippled. Tick. Again. Closer. Stronger. And suddenly I understood. Time. It was gone. It was distant. Like I had been pulled out of it. And if I could hear it, I could reach it. 742, I thought. Or said. Or remembered. The moment I did, everything snapped. Not gradually. Not gently. Violently. I was thrown. Back into myself. I collapsed onto the floor of my bedroom. Gasping, choking on air that felt too thick, too heavy, too real. My lungs burned. My heart slammed violently against my ribs. I was alive. Stumbling toward the wall, the clock. 7:42 a.m., the same number. The same moment. The beginning. Laughed. The broken, breathless sound. I made it, I whispered. The words died in my throat. Something was wrong. The room felt too clean. Too untouched. I looked at the bed. Perfectly made. No sign I had ever slept in it. I ran to the bathroom. The mirror. Stared at my reflection. It stared back. Perfectly synced. Perfectly normal. For a moment hope flickered. Then it smiled. I didn't. The smile was slow. Deliberate and wrong in a way that made my stomach twist. You shouldn't have come back, it said. My blood ran cold. The voice wasn't mine. It was layered. Like multiple voices speaking through the same mouth. You don't belong to this moment anymore. I stumbled back, shaking my head.
No.
I went back. You escaped, it corrected softly. The reflection leaned closer to the mirror. Its eyes weren't eyes anymore. They were empty. Deep. Hungry. And now, it whispered. We followed. The lights flickered. Hard. Violent. The clock behind me jumped. 7:427:427:422 repeating. Glitching. Breaking. If turned and saw it. Hallway. Not stretching this time. Bleeding darkness pouring from it like liquid shadow. Spreading across the floor. Crawling up the walls. The doors weren't doors anymore. They were openings. And something was stepping through. Not one. Many. The voids. But now they had shape. Not solid. Not human. But closer. Like they were learning. I anchored myself. I shouted, backing away. You can't take me now. The reflection laughed. A sound that echoed from the hallway, from the walls, from inside my head. You don't understand, it said. The mirror cracked, a thin line splitting across my face. You didn't return to your time. The crack spread, spidering outward. You brought us into it. The glass shattered, and from within it hands, dozens of them, reaching, grabbing, pulling themselves out of the broken reflection. I ran, not toward the hallway, away anymore. Every door I opened led back inside. Different versions of the same room. Different states of decay. Different points in time. Docs everywhere. All reading 7/4/27, 4/27, 47, 42, endless. Moving. A prison. I slammed a door shut behind me, gasping. My chest heaving. My vision blurring. And I saw him, the older version of me. Standing in the corner. Watching. Silent.
What do I do?
I begged. He didn't answer immediately, because now he looked worse than ever. Fragmented. Barely there. You can't stop it, he said finally. My stomach dropped. No, there has to be a way you already chose. His voice echoed strangely, like it was coming from multiple directions. You anchored yourself to the moment. He took a step closer and flickered. But that moment, he looked at the clock. 7:42 isn't moving anymore. The realization hit me slowly, then all at once.
No.
You didn't escape time being taken. His voice dropped to a whisper. You trapped yourself in what's left of it. The walls began to close in, the shadows thickening, the voids pushing through every surface. And now, he said, there's nothing left for them to take. The creatures moved closer, except what remains of you. I backed away until there was nowhere left to go. The clock ticked once and stopped. 7:42 forever. The last thing I saw was my own reflection standing among them, smiling.